You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, AJ, I think the best way to start this is what happened? What happened to Boston College? You start the year 4-1. It was looking really good. I mean, it was a very good 4-1, I would say. And the one loss was on the road at Missouri, who was, I think, the 5th ranked team in the country at that point. And it was a close loss, too. It was a one-possession game. I thought Boston College at one point might win the game.
Yep.
So what led to Boston College's hot start? And then what happened? Why all of a sudden a 3-game losing streak?
So, all right, we'll start off with the way this season, it's been a roller coaster, right? So you start the season off, and I know Florida State is hot garbage right now, but they were number 10 when you faced them. I know they lost to Georgia Tech, but because of that weird week 0 not ranking thing, BC got them at top 10 in Florida State, and they basically just ran the ball down their throat. Ran for like 270 yards. They were dominating that game, and go on to win. They crushed Duquesne. Then they go to Missouri, as you said. They were winning. They were up like 14-0 at one point, but they just didn't have the weapons to do it. And Thomas Castellanos made I think 2 interceptions that ended up crushing them. Against Michigan State, they come back and win that game. They storm the field. That was fun. Red bandana game. They then go against Western Kentucky. Thomas Castellanos is hurt. He doesn't play. So they start at Grayson James, and he's not good. He went like 7 of 16. And
I know that feeling.
Like, no. It's
not good.
There's a few writers that I see at a lot of these practices, and they're like, yeah, Grayson James should be like, all right. The offensive line's not good enough for him to do much, and he's not accurate. So they Donovan Azaraku won them that game. Then things start falling apart. So Thomas Castellanos comes back. He had 3 or 4 turnovers against UVA. One of them where he got the ball swiped out of his hands right into Jonas Sanker's hands, and he ran it in for a touchdown that basically sealed that loss. They go to Virginia Tech. They come out looking like absolute garbage to start the game. They're down 28-0. They come back. They almost tie it in the third quarter. They're down 28-21. There was a 4th and 1. They got stuffed, and it just fell apart from there. They just didn't have the guns to do it. And then against Louisville, am I missing a lot? No. Then it's Louisville, right? So Louisville, they're up 20-0. 20-0 at one point in the second quarter, making turnovers. They're getting plays, and then it was a lot of gadget kind of stuff. So they were making turnovers and getting short field, and then Louisville figured it out, and BC's offense just and the overarching theme of all this is BC's punting is one of the most offensive things I've ever seen in my life. Like against punting, their punting is awful.
So you guys also have a bad special teams.
This
is going to be fun.
So there was the Virginia Tech game, we're looking for turnovers. Like, I think Thomas Castellanos put the ball on the ground 3 times against Virginia Tech after fumbling and throwing interceptions against Virginia. So you're watching the Louisville game. He makes no turnovers. Great, right? But the punts were basically turnovers. Like, they had a 22-yard punt from like the 20-yard line against Louisville. That's a touchdown. They had like a 30-yard punt. And the worst part of all this is they've cycled in 3 or 4 guys, and none of them can punt. None of them can consistently punt.
Does Boston College have a soccer team by chance?
We've been saying there needs to be an open audition. We did
listen.
I've
been campaigning for many, many years that I think a solution to punting is take a goalie from soccer. Have you ever seen how far they can punt a soccer ball? It's insane.
Yeah.
You telling me they can't punt a football? Just give them a little bit of training. They can do it.
They need a sports psychologist for this team, because I've gone to enough practices to watch them, and I'm like, he's booming it. And then I'm sitting up at the press box. It's off the side of his foot. It's, he's shanking it. It's like, what is going on? So that is
yips.
Yeah, it seriously cost them the game against that, and their offense was horrible. It cost them a game against Louisville. So it's just been, as Bill says, they have not been able to put together 60 minutes of football, and it's like inconsistencies here and there, and it's cost them 4 games. So that's kind of the long end of the short of there.
The thing is, though, with Boston College is even though they are 4-4, it's not a game that Syracuse should take lightly. First of all, you're on the road. And second of all, I look at all the games, and for the most part, aside from Virginia Tech, the games are close.
Yeah.
The games are close with Boston College. Like it really, aside from Duquesne, it honestly doesn't even really matter the opponent. It's kind of just close regardless. You mentioned some of the shortcomings of Castellanos, but he was someone who I was not high on at the beginning of the season. I didn't think he was very good at all. I was like, he can run. I know he's got 1,100 rushing yards. That's cool, but he can't throw. He's got 15 touchdowns, 14 interceptions last year. This year, 17 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So a much, much better ratio here. How has he been able to progress as a passer this season?
I mean, it's good. He's not great. He has his moments. I think the big thing with him is consistency. And, there's times like when you watch the Louisville game where he'll find like a guy wide open and nail it. And having him work with Bill O'Brien has been a huge deal, right? Bill's worked with Tom Brady, Deshaun Watson, Bryce Young, like he's, you name it. He's had that experience, and he's worked with him specifically to make him more of a pocket passer. Now, the bad side of that is I feel like, just like I said with the yips with the punter, it's also gotten in his head too. Like if you look at his rushing yards, he's not the same passer or runner anymore because he's learning how to be a pocket quarterback. But I kind of hate it because it takes the one thing away from him that makes him special. He's a 5'9" quarterback. I don't need to see Thomas Castellanos sitting in a pocket trying to read defenses. I want to see Thomas Castellanos. Yeah, I'd love to make sure he doesn't throw a ton of interceptions like he did last year. But I'd rather see him make a quick read, and if it's not there, run. And he's not doing that. He's sitting there reading and making 2 or 3 reads. The offensive line's not all that good. So then he's getting chased, and he doesn't, I don't know if he's hurt or whatever, but he's not the same guy as last year. So he's not able to run the ball as effectively. And that piece, personally, like the offense was what it was last year, but it had an identity and could do things a lot, right? Like they were a power running team. They were like 10th in the country at one point. They couldn't pass the ball to save their lives, but they could run it. And that was what they were going for. They can't do that right now. And that's a big issue. Bill, again, like this week was just saying at press conference, they got to pass the ball better. I'm like, please stop having him like he's not making good reads. He's missing guys that are wide open and doesn't see them. And then you got wide receivers who on paper look okay, but they're also struggling to get open too. So it's been a kind of I feel like that has been one of the biggest issues. The defense has been fine. Like they're limited in some ways, but the offense has just not been consistent enough. And there's times where this offense just looks bad.
I get it. I mean, I think the next step with Castellanos, it's put it all together.
Right.
We've seen he can run. This year, he has improved. His numbers look better.
Yep.
Put it together. Next season, that's what he's got to do. Maybe it's this game. Hopefully not. Hopefully he wakes up after Syracuse game. That would be nice. I'll let you have that.
I would say, what's going to be interesting is, and this is just me spitballing. I've said this on my show a bunch of times. So the coaches, if they're listening, I've said this before. Castellanos is a Jeff Hafley guy. I get the sense based off of the recruiting and the quarterbacks they're going for that Bill's not all that thrilled with mobile quarterbacks. Like he likes guys that can move a little.
When he was with Watson, Watson was a mobile guy.
Right. That's a different type of mobile, like a guy that can move in the pocket and can run a little bit, but like he's not like Castellanos, who's like
he's not going to run. Deshaun was never a guy who was going to run for 1,000. He wasn't Lamar Jackson, but he was one of the more mobile quarterbacks in the league when he was in Houston. That's kind of surprising to me how he wouldn't like a guy like Castellanos.
He says he
maybe
likes
he's
him.
so used to a guy like Watson who was an NFL guy and was once really good. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I think I think he's more interested in the passing mechanics than the running mechanics, right? Like he wants a guy that can throw it, and maybe if Castellanos isn't able to do it the way he wants him to, I'm just curious if this is going to be our quarterback next year. Just whether it's a variety of decisions there. Just a thought I've had. Bill says over and over again that he loves him. I know he's very well respected within the school. I'm just curious. It's just something I think about sometimes.
It's fair to wonder. In this day and age with the transfer portal, you never quite know. And hey, you know what? just spitballing here since we're spitballing right now. Kyle McCord's it doesn't have any more years of eligibility after this. So Syracuse is going to be in the quarterback market potentially. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm not naming names, but since you're okay.
I mean, Auburn and Ole Miss reached out to him last year, so I know they were trying to get him to transfer and he wouldn't do it. So you never know. And then you think about there's plenty of really good quarterbacks that may fit what Bill is trying to do more that would like to work with Bill O'Brien. You know what I mean? There's guys out there. I'm look at USC right now. And I don't know how good he is anymore, but Miller Moss is getting benched.
Yep.
Would he like to get his, feet wet working with Bill? You never know. Something like that could happen and just surprise you. And there's something I've been thinking of.
Well, you never quite know. Overall, what would you say are BC's biggest strengths and biggest weaknesses?
So their ability to run the ball has been probably their biggest strength, I think. Not just Castellanos, their power running the ball. When they do it, I think it's been good. Now, their offensive coordinator is Will Long. He was the tight ends coach for the Patriots with Bill. It's his first year calling plays. I'm not the biggest fan of some of the ways that he's constructing these offenses. But when he gets things going, they can be good. They got this guy, Turbo Richard. He missed last week. I love his name. He's a running back, true freshman. Probably their most talented running back. You guys saw Kai Robichaux last year, who was a big physical dude. This guy's got more explosiveness to him. And it's just starting to get he's just getting his feet wet. So I'm not sure if he's going to play or not. It didn't sound like it when Bill was talking on a podcast today. But you never know. That's a big strength. And takeaways, they're big. Their defense is they're ball hawks. They're going to make mistakes. They're very much into bend don't break. So you're not going to get a ton of huge plays against this defense. You can march down the field all the time on them, but they also will get. They had I think 3 or 4 turnovers against Louisville. So they've been doing a lot of that. Now they got to stop turning the ball on the other side. So that's the weakness, right? They as equally as they take the ball away, they give it away. Now they didn't do that against Louisville, but I said the punts were basically turnovers. And then the other big issue, and why Brent mentioned Allen, is their run defense has been inconsistent since probably midway through the Virginia game. And we saw pieces of it against Missouri too, where they just, there's been some big plays Bashal Tootin for Virginia Tech just murdered BC.
We were lucky we didn't have to face Tootin last week.
Yeah. So he had 285 yards and 4 touchdowns against BC. He just basically took them out. So that's something. And then punting. Yeah, that's the big issue. So
listen, if they need someone to punt 20 yards off the side of the foot, call me. I can do that.
I was just kicking a football in my backyard going, can I do that? And no, I can't do that, but I tried.
One of my prouder moments, it's sad to say, but this is one of my prouder moments of athletics. I mean, I wasn't a football player growing up. So I went to the College Football Hall of Fame last April, and they have a field goal set up. I know it's field goal, not punting, but they have a field goal set up.
Yep.
It's about 20 yards. They give you a try on it. You can try to kick a field goal. I made it first try.
Wow.
Barely squeaked it in. I'm talking barely. It was short right, but I just snuck it in there. And I was like, that's the pinnacle of my football career.
I was going to say, most of those halftime or commercial games that they have sometimes where they bring on random people to kick field goals, you got to add another 5 yards. Cause I think they're usually 25 yards. So you probably, if you just hit it on 20, probably a little short, but maybe if you do some practicing, you can win on one of those things, right? The pressure of thousands of people watching you might be hard.
Listen, I would play hockey in front of thousands of people and be okay. If Boston College is looking for some hockey players, but no, I do not want to kick a football in front of thousands of people. I don't think it would go very well.
No.
All
right, I figured